Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're gonna be reacting to
America compared. Why other countries treat their people so much better.
This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help me make more content like this, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. I'm going to say something that will probably offend many of my viewers. Let me preface this by saying that I, as an American, include myself in the following statement. Americans are quite possibly the most willfully ignorant people on the face of the planet. We have access to the sum total of all
I would remove the word willfully, but Americans are probably some of the most ignorant people. I would agree with that. But willfully, meaning they on purpose choose to be ignorant, I don't know if that's the truth. I think it's more so they are just not exposed to it, and that's why they're ignorant because they don't know. Like, we've done this in other videos, like news. Like, Americans just don't see world news because there's no need to. So it's like they see so much, and America is such a big country that local news for other European countries would be world, like not world news, but like overseas, like other country news. Like for somebody in New York watching news from California, that's like for somebody in Lithuania watching news what happens in Spain. So in that sense, so I would remove the word willfully, but some are them being some of the most ignorant people. I could agree with that statement. Yeah.
human knowledge. Yet our understanding of the world rarely extends beyond our own country, and even then, the majority of Americans believe in a vision of the country that does not actually exist. It's not that we're stupid, we just tend to blindly accept that the US is the greatest place on Earth, and therefore don't see any reason to educate ourselves about the realities of the rest of the world. In this episode, we're going to pull back the curtain on how America actually compares to other countries, and consider why the richest country on Earth fails to treat its people with dignity and fairness. I'm going to provide a list of important topics, then for each item we'll compare the American experience.
And also, when you're ignorant, you kind of don't know that you need to educate yourself because you don't know any better. So you think, okay, that's what it is, and so that's why I don't want to say willfully, because willfully meaning other places is better, but you just like I don't
yeah, you
know.
made a choice.
Yeah, I made a choice. I don't think people make a choice. They're just kind of not conditioned to that. They're not shown that.
Experience with that of citizens from other nations. Hopefully, by providing a side-by-side comparison, you'll be able to see the stark contrast between how most Americans see their country and how it really stacks up against the competition. To give you an idea of just how skewed the American perception of our country really is, let's start with a pretty shocking example. Compensation for what are considered low-skill jobs. We'll take the quintessential American company, McDonald's. McDonald's is the world's largest restaurant chain by revenue. It operates in over 100 countries and serves over 69 million customers every day. As of 2018, McDonald's was the second largest private employer.
Oh, that's a little old, before COVID. Ooh, okay.
With 1.7 million employees, behind Walmart's 2.3 million. How many times have you heard someone refer to McDonald's jobs or workers in a derogatory manner? For some reason, people who work at McDonald's are seen as inferior or lazy or have any number of other unfair and
Okay,
unkind
yeah.
assessments leveled at them. This probably stems from the old notion of flipping burgers being a job anyone can perform. But the animosity towards low-wage workers has grown significantly in the past few decades. And in America, McDonald's workers really do suffer a low wage. As of 2020, the average crew member at McDonald's makes $9 per hour. The average McDonald's cashier makes $8 per hour.
How old is this?
It's 2020, so
Oh.
this is a little dated information. The wages have improved in McDonald's and Walmart, those two, cause that this like made the news that it got better. But let's take it for those times. It is what it is.
Federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25, a rate which has not been raised in over a decade, and which should not be considered a reasonable wage for any position.
Yeah, I
considering the
remember
fact
when
that
I
a
was working, it was 7.25.
It's been 7.25 since I've been in this country. Yes.
full-time minimum wage worker cannot afford to rent a two-bedroom apartment anywhere in the United States, and can't afford a one-bedroom apartment in over 95% of U.S. counties. Now, the all-too-common response to data
Now
like
it's
this is something
100%.
like, well, yeah, it's not a hard job. You should just find a better one. Here's a simple question. Should any job, regardless of technical skill required, pay workers so little that they cannot afford to rent even the smallest place to live?
Well, let's be fair. In Europe too, if you work a minimum wage job, I don't think you'll be able to afford renting. I don't think minimum wage.
I think long ago you were able to.
Maybe, but nowadays I think minimum wage jobs are not meant to be like a single income household. I think minimum wage jobs is when two of the spouses work a minimum wage job, and then maybe you can afford something. Not or I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you could live off in Europe of a minimum wage job either, though. Like in Lithuania, what minimum wage is like 400 euros or something like that. I mean, you wouldn't live off of that. Rent is just like 200, 300 if you're like very cheap. So I mean, it's bad. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm just saying like I don't think minimum wage is a measure because it's not really it's not meant to be like, oh, that's enough.
Mm.
Not to
It's
mention
like
other
a
necessities
entry
like
point, if
utilities, food,
anything.
and medicine. Absolutely not. That is inhumane and cruel, especially coming from the second largest employer in the richest country on the planet. Other notable objections include McDonald's has to make a profit. If they pay their workers more, they might go out of business. First of all, if you can't pay your workers a fair wage, your company should not be in business. End of story. But again, McDonald's is not struggling to make ends meet. In 2019, McDonald's raked in $21 billion in revenue. But no matter how obvious the exploitation of low-wage workers, Americans are hell-bent on
I kind of thought he would compare how much McDonald's workers make here versus Europe.
Yeah, I thought there would be a
Yeah.
price difference.
Yeah, because I would love to see that. And I don't know why we're just focusing on McDonald's so far.
praising the very companies doing the exploiting. Take this article on Reader's Digest, for example. It's titled, "This is what McDonald's workers really get paid." You see that and think, oh, nice, finally some news showing how poorly these workers are compensated. Then you scroll down and nope, they're actually praising McDonald's, saying things like, the food chain is also great for paying their workers fairly, and McDonald's is one of the highest paying fast food chains in the United States. This level of sycophancy is insane. If $8 or $9 an hour is some of the highest pay in the industry, that doesn't indicate that McDonald's is paying fairly, it indicates that a massive chunk of the population is being paid poverty wages. This is where taking an international perspective is so critical. If all you see is feel-good stories about how well McDonald's workers are paid, you'll never know how badly American workers are actually being treated.
We're serving patients in very, very isolated communities that have no health care. Cybersecurity is
Let's take the same company, the same position, but in a different country.
There you
Here's a
go,
McDonald's
yes.
in Denmark. The average McDonald's worker in Denmark, for doing the same low-skill job, makes $22 per hour. Well, hold on, you hear Reader's
Wow.
Digest scream from across the Atlantic.
Okay, now that is shocking. Wow.
But the
That-
cost of living in Denmark is different.
It's not higher than here. It's more expensive to live here than
Do you,
Denmark.
so I don't know.
Wow.
McDonald's workers in America get paid vacation days after just a year of work. Wow.
Well, I will say then that's no minimum wage job in Denmark. McDonald's is not a minimum wage job.
Enticing. In Denmark, when you're hired at McDonald's, not only are you making nearly 3 times what you would make in an American Mickey D's, you also instantly have access to a full year of paid family leave and a pension. No slaving away for a year to prove your value to the company. You're hired and you're treated fairly. Simple as that. McDonald's can afford to compensate all their workers like this, but they won't.
How
Because US
come?
laws allow them to exploit American
The
workers to the
laws.
point where they're basically slaves, earning the bare minimum to survive, paying all of their income, and often going into debt just to
I wonder what's the can they be able to afford a place to stay in Denmark too? That's why I wonder that too as well.
They should be able to have $22.
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering because we did that in comparison with the state.
That's like 180 almost dollars a day.
Because they could be paid $22 an hour, but do they get the hours?
I would think so. A little hard to believe though.
I don't know,
$22
that's why I need
that's a
more
little hard to
information.
believe. $22 an hour for McDonald's in Denmark.
So what do they pay the jobs?
Hold on, I gotta look that up. That's hard to believe. Cause I do feel like often, cause especially remember last time with the eggs, how they say eggs is like what $12 a dozen. I feel like sometimes these videos sensationalize the things a little. They take one location, maybe like some prime location, and McDonald's Denmark.
And I wonder if this
wage.
is for the entry job at McDonald's because the managers here can make $15. I don't know if this 22 is for entry or is it for manager.
There's a meme being debated right now that says that McDonald's workers in Denmark make 22 US per hour, plus they have 6 weeks of vacation. Is this accurate? So this is a Reddit thread. Short answer is yes. Living in anywhere except in the largest 5 cities, you will be able to.
So it's true. Wow.
It's true. Wow.
Wow.
And it's enough to make a living.
Wow.
And it says, because can you work at a fast food place like McDonald's and have a decent standard of living? Short answer is yes. Wow.
And in Denmark, they probably have like the robots too. So you don't even really have to engage with customers. You just, do the fries and.
$22 for fucking McDonald's?
I wonder what's for the other jobs.
A 17-year-old McDonald's worker shared her payslip yesterday. Their base hourly rate was $82 Danish krones, which is about 11-12 USD. When he or she turns 18, that base pay will be just about double, so 22 USD.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Pay rent, and having no way to escape this vicious cycle because they're working such long hours. This is the case across all of America's low-wage jobs, of which there are many. The plight of the low-wage
Damn,
worker is
that's
incredibly
I think
dire.
here
and
in the
all-
States
that's
there would
crazy.
be an uproar if that was to happen.
$22 an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Inflation will go through through the roof. Because if the minimum, well, they're close to minimum, but if McDonald's start getting paid $22, everybody have to demand pay raises.
Mm.
I mean, McDonald's right now, as I said, this video is old. Right now, I believe. Let me actually see this, so I don't lie. But because they did raise the wages, it's no longer $8.
Mm. But still,
It's
for
not no
2020,
$22. I
For
can tell you that.
2020 is $22.
I can tell you. I can tell you it's not. Yeah, $13 it says right now. $12 to $13. So
What was $8?
$8. Yeah. So no, McDonald's and Walmart they did consciously raise the raise the wages. It was the whole thing. They're like, oh, they're raising because I mean, but it was long overdue. Honestly, that $8 minimum has been there for decades.
Yeah.
So it's good they raised, but it's whatever. But
Yeah,
$22. Wow.
All you have to do to understand that is look at how those same workers are treated in other wealthy countries. Let's move on to another topic.
I guess caveat. In Denmark, I think McDonald's is more expensive than it is here. It's because here is like the cheapest of the cheapest food chain. I think how McDonald's is in Europe, it's not like the cheapest one. You know, like it's. I remember like in Lithuania, it wasn't like McDonald's wasn't cheap. So I think maybe they get paid better wages because it's not considered like the bottom tier place to go. So it's not like the cheapest food. So the revenues are higher. They can pay more. Well, they can pay more here, as we saw, 21 billion revenue. I mean profit. But yeah, I mean, still crazy.
Work-life balance. Fair wages are definitely part of this equation. If you're paid fairly, you don't need to work a second job, which will free up your time to be spent elsewhere. But we're going to focus on other metrics, specifically the length of the work week, vacation time, and parental leave. Let's start with the US. Most Americans would say that 40 hours per week is full-time. That seems to be the general consensus. But, in keeping with the country's exploitative labor practices, the hilariously named Fair Labor Standards Act does not actually define what qualifies as full-time. That's left up to the employer. Okay, why does this matter? Well, think of your past part-time jobs. Did you get any benefits? Healthcare, 401k? Probably not. Most benefits, when they're offered at all, are reserved for full-time employees. Companies don't want to provide benefits because they affect their bottom line. America is all about cutting costs, and providing workers with fair compensation is a cost. So, imagine you apply for a full-time job at Best Buy. You're offered the job, but they tell you they only have part-time positions, but they can give you almost full-time. They make it sound like they're doing you a favor, offering you more hours than normal part-time. But this is just another example of employers exploiting their workers. If you work 37 hours...
you get 30 hours, so it's not full-time, it's still part-time, but you don't get the benefits. That's pretty common practice here, yeah.
per week, you're essentially a full-time employee, but they don't have to provide you any sort of benefits. No healthcare, no vacation, nothing. This is a common practice. Companies will hire people, but keep them just below the threshold for full-time to avoid providing fair compensation. I've seen it happen. I used to work at Best Buy and they would do it all the time. And that's just the companies who are still trying to appear generous. Others will simply not offer benefits at all, or set their full-time positions at 50 or 60 hours per week. Sales positions are notorious for this. They'll often say, well, we expect you to work 40 hours, but all the top sellers are working 60 to 70 hours per week.
Yeah, sales is commission-based, so that's a little different.
This is coercion. They're trying to pressure you into working more hours to benefit them, and the compensation is never what they claim it will be. By allowing employers to define full-time work, American workers are held captive by corporations, forced to either work absurd hours to qualify for full-time benefits, or find a second job to help cover the cost of things like health insurance. Both of these options lead to a terrible work-life balance, and as real wages have decreased and benefits have been offered less and less over the years, huge numbers of American workers have developed an unhealthy work-life balance. For example, in 1960, when workers had real bargaining power, only 20% of American women worked. Today, 70% of children live in households where both parents are working full-time. Where does all this lead? As of 2020, over 85% of American men and 66% of women work more than 40 hours per week. We work 137 more hours per year than Japanese workers, 260 more than the British, and 499 more hours per year than the French. Why do other countries have such a better balance? Because many of them have laws that cap the length of the full-time work week. Companies are required to pay their workers fairly and allow enough time off for employees to maintain a healthy work-life balance. That's not the case in the US. Vacation time is a similar story. Whereas many other countries mandate that employers provide paid vacation and sick days, the US does not. In every industrialized nation, workers get more paid vacation days and holidays than in the US. Here's a depressing graph to illustrate just how poorly we treat our workers. France, 31.
Paid vacation and paid holidays and working days. So paid vacation is dark color and paid holidays is light color. So where is the US though? Oh, the last one, 0. Oh wow.
Spain, 34. Austria, 38. America, 0. 0 paid vacation days, 0 paid holidays. And remember, these are the...
Let me see, is Lithuania there? I do not see Lithuania there.
The mandated figures. Every Austrian worker gets a minimum of 38 paid days off per year. Even in the worst possible employment situation, they'd still get 38 paid days off. In the US, many workers are lucky to get Christmas or Thanksgiving off at all. And the
Oh no,
That-
they don't like to give those
That's
days
why
off.
people work the holidays because they need the money, right? They don't get they can't take off the holidays because they don't get paid for it. Whereas, as you saw, other countries, yeah,
odds that it's a paid holiday,
still get paid.
next to 0.
What if college was more than a place to earn a degree? What if college was a place where
Let's move on to our final comparison, paid parental leave. Many Americans aren't even aware this is a thing, so let me explain. When an employee of a company has a child, sometimes they're offered parental leave, a period of time where they can stay home from work to bond with and take care of their new baby. This greatly benefits the employee, the child, and, in the long run, the company, because the employee will be happier, less stressed, and more loyal to the company. Of course, offering paid parental leave doesn't benefit corporations in the short term. And if there's one thing that encapsulates the American business philosophy, it's short-term gains over all else. So it won't surprise you to learn that the US is the only industrialized nation on the planet that does not mandate some amount of paid parental leave. This may be shocking to my American viewers because being able to get paid to spend time with your newborn child sounds like an impossible dream in our dystopian labor market. And honestly, it probably is impossible in our current America. We're so invested in self-destructive capitalism that even suggesting the possibility of paid parental leave would put US politicians out of a job. That's not the case in the rest of the industrialized world. In fact, every other OECD nation, and even in many third world countries, new parents are guaranteed at least several weeks of leave. Let's take a look at a few of them. Ethiopia, a country with an annual gross national income of under $900 per person, offers 90 days of leave with 100% pay.
Wow.
Madagascar, 14 weeks at 100%. Afghanistan, 90 days. Denmark, 52 weeks. Norway, 56
Wow.
weeks. France, 16 weeks at 100% pay for your first child, up to 26 weeks for your third, on top of 104 unpaid weeks. Lithuania, 52 weeks at 100%, plus an
Oh, Lithuania made the list. Wow. The whole year, cool.
additional 52 weeks at 80%. Again, the United States does not
What's that,
mandate
80%?
So 50. So you get a year basically full salary, and another year at 80% salary.
Wow.
single day of paid parental leave even for the mother, and the father is never considered. This means that workers in America have to choose to either pay the exorbitant cost of childcare or have one parent quit their job in order to take care of the child. These are both bad options, which often lead to economic precarity. But that doesn't matter to the companies employing American workers. Profit is the only thing that matters. Hopefully seeing these labor practices compared like this has made it clear that not only is the US not living up to its claim to being the greatest nation on earth, but also that it consistently ranks poorly and often dead last in terms of labor metrics. Why is it that the wealthiest, most powerful nation on earth can't pay their workers a fair wage, or provide healthcare, vacation time, or paid parental leave? You should realize by now that it's not that they can't, it's that they won't. Everything in America is beholden to the almighty dollar. Profit is the only motivator. If an action does not produce a greater profit, it will not be considered.
It's like, what
Over
can
the
you
last-
say?
Yeah, no,
What can you say about
nothing.
that?
Nothing. This like second half of it is not new. We've seen that
Yeah.
the whole, the vacation, the parental leaves, maternal leaves. The Denmark thing was shocking though.
Yeah.
Like the $22 at McDonald. Let me look up Denmark's minimum wage. Like
Yeah.
that was
That's
that was
crazy.
shocking. Denmark minimum wage. Oh, it doesn't have a statutory minimum wage. Instead, the wages are determined through collective bargaining agreements between employers and labor unions.
Wow. So in favor of unions.
Yeah, so how the fuck I'm supposed to find out?
I wonder, like other American companies too, their pay over there.
I see like some sort of graph. It's a minimum like euros per month, so not hourly, but
Mhm.
Denmark. Oh, Denmark is actually marked as no minimum wage. Oops.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess they don't have it, so it's hard. I would.
I never heard of that. It's so interesting.
Yeah. Wow. No, but as I said, the Denmark fact was the most mind-blowing fact.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Few decades, Americans have watched as our livelihoods, our quality of life, and our dignity have all been stripped away by those who already make obscene amounts of money. Those in power say we're all in this together, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The ultra-wealthy and the world's largest corporations rely on Americans remaining ignorant. They rely on us accepting the lie that America is the greatest nation on earth, that it couldn't possibly get any better. All you have to do to shatter that lie is to take a look around the world. Other nations take care of their citizens, even impoverished nations, or nations that we've bombed into.
Yeah, but as I said in the intro, when you kind of like brainwashed to think certain way, you don't think
Mhm.
that, oh, I need to look around because you already been brainwashed. So
Mhm.
it's
Or
not.
is even ask questions.
Yeah, so it's not willful ignorance. People don't choose it. It's just
Yeah.
you've kind of been conditioned to that situation.
To oblivion take better care of their people than the US does. American workers need to relearn the language of class struggle and work together to break the wheel of the capitalist machine. If we want to claim that the United States is the greatest place on earth, we need to make it that way.
Wow.
I think people have talked about, oh, like with a job like McDonald's, you're not expected to be able to rent or even own property. So they tell you to have higher aspirations because people who usually go to that job, they look down upon them. So I
I mean,
wonder.
I literally just said that in the intro of the video, but
Mm-hmm.
well, Denmark proved me wrong. So
Mm-hmm. But I wonder in Denmark if people who work at McDonald's, if they're looked down upon,
I don't
will
know
they
if they
apply?
look down upon, but on Reddit it did say that unless you're like one of the 5 major cities, working a job like McDonald's is gonna be enough of money for you to have a solid income,
Mm.
solid living,
Mm.
like a car, a rent and everything. So
Mm.
yeah.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord, and as always, share as much kindness as possible.